I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christine Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christine Barr, and today we got to talk about Miss Crockett again. I know we talked about this yesterday and the whole beef with the comments that she made with Governor Gregg Abbot, but she claims that it wasn't about her disability, about his disability, that it was about the fact that he was busing in and flying in migrants, which, why didn't you call them hot wings and not Hot Wheels? But it was about flying in the migrants and stuff. But so she's like, they're taking my words and they're twisting them. How dare they? But there's evidence that she has repeatedly done this in the past, alluded to that, or liked tweets. I mean, not tweets, but like different posts in the past that mocked his disability. And so not only is she doing that, she's doing the whataboutism and trying to point to, well, Donald Trump made fun of a disabled person too, which we have debunked that. Many people have debunked it, but there's a lot of people out there who don't know that Trump did not mock a reporter's disability. He did mock a disabled reporter. There's a difference there. And in case you don't make it past this intro, I will briefly explain. If someone mocked me, that doesn't necessarily mean you're mocking me for being black, though you may be mocking a black woman. So hopefully that's enough of an explanation there. So we'll be talking about that. Also, the CEO of NPR was on at Congress in trying to explain or justify whether they should still keep getting paid by our taxpayer dollars. And she got lit up. She got lit up by some of her tweets and things that she had read in the past, and claimed she didn't read, but then there's tweets about the things that she's read. And it was, I just got to go walk you through this master class video of just like this takedown and what that means. But before we jump into everything else, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run my site, all the good stuff. You guys can also give stars from Facebook or super chats on YouTube, or stickers you're watching later, you know. But the best way to support is to go directly to the website. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on the website as well. And I encourage you guys to also check out my books that I have for sale. You guys can, I guess, find the link to my book website if you go to blacktnews.com and go to the merchandise pages or banner. But my book website is ninjadustpublishing.com, and there's a link in the descriptions that will take you to an Amazon page where this stuff is at anyway. So I encourage you guys to go check out my books. I have mostly fiction and some nonfiction. One of my nonfiction books is, of course, God is blatantly against abortion. So I encourage you guys to check that out. Thank you to those of you who are watching live, and to those of you who watch back later. If all you can do is comment to help like boost things and, you know, start chit chat and liking and the video, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys who are here with me now, and again, who will watch back later. It seems like you guys are eager to probably talk about Little Miss Ghetto Hot Trash. And Dana Lash was talking about how she knows like the area where Crockett grew up, and that like it's all facade. She grew up in a you know, like private school and all this kind of stuff. So there, a lot of folks are like, she's just putting on an act, like being the loudmouth, you know, ghetto chick. But I just would be like, embarrassed if I were her. But let's go ahead and start off with that story because I think that's what the people want to see. Though the NPR thing is definitely worth sticking around for, just FYI. So yesterday news broke and she was trending and folks were talking about this for a while and continue to still talk about this, especially as she makes it a big story. Sometimes you got to just take your L. And I don't know, she could have just ignored it and been like, I said what I said. They're trying to censure her for her comments and whatever, but there's some people I saw who claim that they were donating to her campaign because she said what she said. So she's attracting, folks who like ghetto hot trash, I guess. So she did what she did. She said what she said. But I just wanted to show this headline of the Washington Post. Rep. Jasmine Crockett came under fire from Republicans for referring to Texas Governor Gregg Abbott, who uses a wheelchair as Governor Hot Wheels. Crockett made the remark Saturday at a human rights campaign dinner in Los Angeles. Now, this article tweet is getting pointed out because so many times when Democrats do something and it's not a good thing, instead of just covering the thing that the Democrats did, the media will cover how Republicans are reacting to it. It's called Republicans pounce. Like, that's their angle. Republicans pounce on this thing to try to trick the brains of the folks who might be like, oh, that's messed up that she said that about someone who's been paralyzed for a long time. She's a bad person or whatever. Instead of just like being able to have those rational thoughts, they preemptively load it with how you're supposed to feel. Because if you don't like Republicans, and it's like, well, Republicans are complaining and they're coming for her, so you have to protect her. You have to protect her because Republicans are pouncing. That's what they do, and that's what they've done for a while. So I just wanted to show, before we jump into everything, that the media is already going the Republicans pounce method. So she is out here claiming that she did not mean anything specifically negative about Abbott as far as him being in a wheelchair, and it was about him, flying in people. So let's just hear the snippet again, and then we'll read her comment, and then we'll start looking at the evidence that's contrary to her spin on this.
Thank you so much, Morgan, because we in these hot ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot ass mess, honey. So yes. Right. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move on.
Governor Hot Wheels. So this is from her. I wasn't thinking about the governor's condition. I was thinking about the planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants into communities led by Black mayors, deliberately stoking tension and fear among the most vulnerable. Literally, the next line I said was that he was a hot mess, referencing his terrible policies. At no point did I mention or allude to his condition, so I'm even more appalled that the very people who unequivocally support Trump, a man known for racially insensitive nicknames and mocking those with disabilities, are now outraged. Now, I'm not about to go to bat for everything that Trump has said, and I haven't and I won't. But there's a lot of people that are referencing in response to this to defend her doing a whataboutism, saying that Donald Trump mocked a disabled reporter. And that was a huge story in 2016. So if we're going to compare that to what she did, people have been talking about Trump doing that for years. If you think that's like equivalent that we're going to do the whataboutism, just know that we have to talk about this Hot Wheels incident for years. We have to make ads about this for years and call you a terrible, horrible person for years. etc., etc. And when people say that they support you, how dare you? She called him Hot Wheels. If you're going to do the comparison, because people didn't just ignore the Trump thing. There's folks who voted for him who didn't like it, and they voted for other reasons. People vote for people for all kind of complex reasons. Now there's people who defend him or not defend him. Now on the disabled reporter story, that's a hoax. That's a hoax. He did mock someone with a disability, but he didn't mock their disability. He didn't mock their disability. Like, you may talk about me and you may criticize me for the things that I say, and maybe you mock me because you don't like the things I say, maybe think they're dumb. But that doesn't mean that you're mocking me because I'm Black, even though you are technically mocking a Black woman. So that's what happened with Trump. So I'm going to go ahead and play a section of a video that I did debunking that. I have a top 10 Trump hoaxes or whatever that I debunked, and this came in hot at number 4. I'm going to table that for a minute though, but I will get to it. I will get to that. But this, I don't know, doesn't even make a lot of sense, because as far as she said he was a hot mess for sure, but I don't know how you could watch that video and make the connection that she was talking about all the other stuff, but there's evidence to the contrary that she's referred to or liked comments referring to him as Hot Wheels that had nothing to do with him flying in, busing in illegal aliens or whatever. And if she was talking about planes, I was like, she could have called him Hot Wings for the airplanes. She didn't call him Hot Wings. But I guess, they were busing people in. But this is what's really fascinating about her comment here, saying that he was sowing division by taking them to places with Black mayors and deliberately stoking the tension and fear among the most vulnerable. Now, why would... First of all, it's not true that they were just going to places with Black mayors. I know that was a narrative that was going on for a while with the Democrats. They're trying to push that as if it was particularly racist to send the migrants to different sanctuary cities. But that was just them grasping at straws to try to save their butt. But why would sending them to these areas though deliberately stoke the tension though? You want to point out that they're Black, and then now you're saying sending all these people from South America and other places into these Black communities is stoking tension and fear among the most vulnerable. What do they have to be afraid of? Aren't these our friendly neighborhood border jumpers? What reason do they have to be afraid? It kind of sounds like you're inferring some things about your constituents. It kind of sounds like you're inferring some things. So it's interesting that she, puts out this statement, and I think she's causing up some more controversy after posting that, because I have questions. I'm inspired to ask these questions. But the reason why they were sent to those different places is because Abbott was like, these folks aren't doing anything about the border, but these other folks, they claimed that we should let them in, that we should have sanctuary cities, and they want all the burden to be on these border towns. Well, no, you want them, you can take them. And it was a brilliant strategy that really did frustrate people, because it started, draining different resources. There was a story, I think it was in Chicago. Was it Chicago? I think maybe it was Chicago. If I'm wrong, forgive me. But there was a school that had to close, and the kids had to do virtual learning because they were using the school to house the migrants. Or there'd be people upset because they have trouble paying their rent. And New York is, paying for migrants to be in hotels. just stuff like that. Or that wasn't the only place it was happening in just like New York and other places. And they're giving them money for food and all kinds of different stuff while Americans are really struggling. So it did make people upset, but to act as if he was just really trying to tick off black mayors and black voters by sending in brown people, the black people like were really upset because the brown people came. There were white mayors too, ma'am. But it's funny that you can know once all of these black people were upset about illegal immigration, maybe you should be like, oh, Abbott has a point, instead of trying to just sow this racial division and make it seem like he's some kind of racist. Okay. So that was her statement, trying to deny and then also trying to deflect. She's trying to deflect there. Well, there was an interesting tweet that someone quickly found from the past with the new nickname I have for Beto O'Rourke is the king of clapbacks. Beto is rolling all around the state, whereas Abbott rolling too with the little eyes. So I think the little eyes are a little sus, but that doesn't have to mean that, she is talking about him being in a wheelchair. However, there was an article that Washington Free Beacon put out that goes into some posts that she liked that absolutely had to do with the Hot Wheels thing. So it kind of seems like she got caught in a lie here. Kind of seems like she got caught in a lie. So I don't know. I don't know why. Just like own it or whatever. You're already going out there saying the most radical things. It's like she like tried to take someone's phone the other day. She's just out there being ghetto-licious. And if that's what she wants to do, just like own the mess, own the drama. But just because you're stupid, it doesn't mean that everyone else is stupid. Okay. So Jasmine Crockett liked post calling Abbott Hot Wheels in 2021, undercutting her explanation for deriding a wheelchair-bound governor. So, the busing policy didn't begin until 2022. So this phrase predates the policy. So, you guys already heard it, so I won't play the clip again. But here's something, a post. Hot Wheels something else reads a June 2021 Facebook comment that Crockett liked on the platform. The comment was a reply to a Crockett post about Abbott. So she liked that one. And that same month, Crockett reacted with a heart emoji to a comment that said, referring to Abbott, when I say sick of Hot Wheels, I am sick of him. And then she loved that comment there. Okay. A month later, in July 2021, Crockett reacted with a positive emoji to a comment who urged her to keep making Governor Hot Wheels mad. So, it's something that she's been aware of, I guess, that people have been using for a while. Just, you said what you said, you did what you did. Abbott became paralyzed from the waist down after suffering an accident during law school while on a run in 1984. An oak tree snapped and fell on him, breaking his back and injuring internal organs. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I mean, obviously, I was paralyzed. I didn't know how it happened. Just running and then a tree branch. That's crazy. What's also crazy is that she's delivering a speech at the Human Rights Campaign mocking someone in a wheelchair, and everybody just kind of claps. So it just kind of tells you about the crowd there reacting to what's going on. listen, if you ever paid attention to me, y'all know that I always have remarks and something else happens. And so we're going to just do a couple of remarks and then something else is going to happen. Crockett said, y'all just pray for me because who knows what I'm going to end up saying. Well, she said what she said. I really don't understand it. Like, did they not expect people to be able to find receipts when you have a history? Which, by the way, I don't want to sound insensitive, but there are worse nicknames than Governor Hot Wheels. It I don't know, actually sounds kind of cool. you know, um, you know, maybe that's just me, but like there's definitely worse nicknames that people can have for you. But she was definitely coming at him for that. I don't know how you can spin that a different way when there's a repeated history of her liking those comments, and then people who's associated with her or been on her page or whatever have been using that phrase. So it's not a new slur and it's not an original slur from her, but it is about Abbott. Now, to the people who are trying to come at Trump and Trump supporters, like, oh, he talks about people and he says the worst things. He does sometimes, and he's said some things that have made me cringe. I'm like, and things that he said I've criticized before, and there's things that I'm not gonna bother defending, and I'm like, I wish he wouldn't have said that. I'm like, that does sound a little racial, Trump. Like there have been times, and I'm not about to go through a whole list. If you don't listen regularly, that is just your fault. That is just your fault. But I do want to go back down memory lane, and I'm going to play something from a video that I made more than a year ago, I guess. And it was debunking different, it wasn't more than a year ago, it was like 7 months ago, actually. Debunking different Trump hoaxes. And number 4 is that Trump mocked a disabled reporter. So that whole entire video is on YouTube, but I'm going to go ahead and play that section. It's just a couple of minutes. So, because this is what people are trying to use. I might have to just put this on like TikTok as well, because I see people on big accounts and stuff like trying to really push like, oh, Trump mocked a disabled reporter, and this is where his campaign should have ended, and I can't believe it kept going after that. Guys, people looked into it. Well, people wanted to vote for him for different reasons and didn't want Hillary Clinton to be president. At the end of the day, they picked a really bad candidate. But other people eventually looked into it and realized that they had been wrong and mad at this man all this time for nothing. So there's plenty of reasons to not like Trump or not like different things that he says or different things that he does. But many times when I'm having conversations with people on the other side of the aisle, they expect me to be angry over things that they made up or things that they've imagined in their minds. Like the really hot thing right now is to say that Donald Trump, his executive order against DEI ended up repealing, like made it so that you can bring back segregation because he repealed something from LBJ. And I'm like, do you think he repealed the Civil Rights Act? I'm like, no, he did. Oh, okay. Like, why do you think that we can just go around discriminating against people? Like, he repealed it because he wanted to get rid of affirmative action, which they don't like getting rid of affirmative action. And the reason why Trump doesn't want affirmative action, or people in a circle, whatever, don't want affirmative action is because they want merit-based. They don't want someone to think about different quotas that will maybe end up pushing out someone who maybe deserves a job, but they don't have the right skin color, they're not the right gender or whatever. So they want to eliminate biases so people can just kind of evaluate, the candidates themselves. So that's the goal, maybe you don't think is going to work out because people have implicit biases or whatever, but that's the intended goal. The intended goal isn't to bring back segregation. So that's what folks are pushing right now. It is, and it's funny because someone brought this up in my comments on a video I did about I was complaining about Candace Owens and some anti-Semitic stuff going on, and they're like, I don't care because y'all didn't come at her for other stuff, which I've criticized Candace like for forever on different things. So they don't really know my content, but they brought up the segregation thing. But I'm like, you said you didn't even care about anti-Semitism, and they're like, I don't. So a lot of these people complain about stuff. There's just not a consistency there. They just want to attack Trump, and they want the lines and different things tipped in their favor, but they don't actually care about equality across the board and like everybody being treated equal in the eyes of the law and the government. All this. They don't want that. They don't want that. So anyway, I told them, I said, I can't be mad at the things that you've imagined in your mind. And this is another scenario where people are mad at things that now I can't say imagine in their mind, because the media, like this was an enormously coordinated and repeated piece of propaganda. So you'd have to do a little bit of digging to know that this wasn't Trump mocking a disabled reporter. And as a matter of fact, first time I saw it, I was like, ooh. I still wasn't going to vote for Hillary Clinton, don't get me wrong. But I was like, And then I looked into it. Oh, sorry. Then I looked into it. It was really that simple. So this video, again, is top 10 Trump hoaxes. And that one is this one I'm about to play is number 4. Came down to number 4. Number 4. This one was a big one, especially his first time running for president, that Donald Trump mocked a reporter's disability.
The poor guy, you gotta see this guy. I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Now, if you recall the ads on TV, it kind of seemed like sometimes they would slow him up and they would make it seem like he was mocking someone with, I don't know, Tourette's or having a seizure or someone with Down syndrome. When the truth is, his beef was with a guy who is a Pulitzer Prize award-winning journalist who has, an arm that's, withered. And so Donald Trump, he made a claim that there were thousands of people celebrating after 9/11. And so people were like, that's not true. That's not true. So Donald Trump found an article that was written by this journalist saying that people were celebrating, after 9/11. Now, did he say that there were thousands of people? No, but he did say, this was written in the article from the Washington Post, in Jersey City, within hours of 2 jetliners plowing into the World Trade Center, law enforcement authorities detained and questioned a number of people who were allegedly seen celebrating the attacks and holding tailgate-style parties on rooftops while they watched the devastation on the other side of the river. And people were saying that he said Muslims were out celebrating. His original comments actually didn't say Muslims, unless he said it some other time, but his initial comments didn't actually say thousands of Muslims. They're just people celebrating, according to his comments. And so this journalist, Sergei Kolovetsky, he said that he didn't remember writing, that didn't sound right with him writing that there were thousands of people celebrating. And he didn't say that there were thousands of people celebrating. But he said he couldn't remember or whatever. So Donald Trump talked about it and he said, I can't remember. And he does this gesture.
A couple of good paragraphs. Instead of talking about northern New Jersey, draws the prober's eye. Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you gotta see this guy. I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going, I don't remember. Maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction. 14 years ago, they did no retraction.
Now, I don't know why arms kind of flailing about like this would indicate someone who has like a paralyzed arm. But that's just a kind of gesture that Trump does when he's mocking different people. And you can find montages of him mocking other people, including generals, of just his arms kind of flailing about.
And we'll get some of these regulators out of the banks so you can borrow and you can help. Because, the banks now, they can't do anything. They're run by the regulators. In all fairness to the banks, they're run by the regulators. When you see the president of the bank, I mentioned the word regulator. These guys come in, they run the banks. And I watched a general recently on television, and they said to him, what do you think about ISIS? Oh, ISIS is very tough. And I'm saying, first of all, why is a general on television? I don't want my generals on television. I heard Ted's a good debater. I said, he is a good debater, but he can't talk, okay? Bad talker. He's a good debater, bad talker. So he's over here. They asked him about waterboarding. They said, Senator Cruz, what do you think of waterboarding? I don't want to talk about it. You know, he didn't want to talk about waterboarding because too controversial. And I'm saying to myself, they're chopping off heads. He doesn't want to talk about waterboarding.
He did mock someone who had a disability, but he was not mocking someone's disability. It's like if you decided to talk about me and people are going around like, oh, they're attacking Black people. Yeah, I'm a Black person, but you didn't attack me because I'm Black. I just happen to be Black. So that's really what it was. This particular manipulation from the media and the campaigns and stuff, Hillary Clinton campaign, was something that actually, I guess, radicalized Brandon Straka of the walkaway movement, because he thought Trump was so awful and terrible. And he mentioned him mocking a disabled reporter. And someone's like, I don't want to really argue with you, but you know that didn't actually happen, right? And he looked it up and his brain was just fried and rebooted. Just like could not believe that he was manipulated. So that was a turning point for him.
But the common thread in all of these different scenes throughout the years was that he was imitating someone who was caught in a lie, or imitating somebody who was groveling because they had done something shady. And I watched it, and Mark, I'm telling you, it was the strangest experience I've ever had in my life. I almost sort of dissociated for a moment because there was this disconnect between my brain and my heart, because my brain was telling me, oh my God, I don't think that he mocked that reporter's disability. My heart was saying, but we hate him, but we hate him, but we hate him. And so I couldn't reconcile within myself what had happened. And so I shut my computer. I watched it 3 times and I couldn't figure it out. So I went to bed, woke up the next day, and I watched it again. And I thought, okay, he didn't mock that reporter's disability, but why did CNN tell me that he did? Because CNN has never lied to me before. So why did they start lying today? You know, I couldn't figure it out.
Donald Trump did not mock a reporter's disability, but that's what the ads were. And it's like, oh, he can't be president because he's such a terrible man. Who would happen to do this? So I don't know if I've seen him do a lot of those gestures since that time. But sometimes you got to be careful about who you're mocking, because they will open that door if they can. But that was a really big hurdle that Trump had to climb over. And if Hillary Clinton wasn't as terrible as she is, he might not be the president. That was a really big one that I think significantly hurt him. Fortunately, Hillary Clinton is terrible, was terrible, continues to be terrible, and he did pull out a victory. Number 3. Okay, so yeah, that's the video. If you guys haven't seen the full thing, I encourage you guys to go to YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel. And it's like top 10 Trump hoaxes. I got a nice comment, just said, I don't understand why you don't have more viewers. You really should. Thank you. I don't know, YouTube and I don't know, they don't like me, I guess. I don't know. They've the only time where they really pushed stuff was when I was like really doing some, like when they first wanted to really push shorts. I did some about Dylan Mulvaney, and then they just went viral, and like a bunch of stuff on the trans stuff. And I did videos that obviously that had to deal with other things, but that was the thing that went like super viral on my page that, I mean, got me to the point where I could even be monetized on YouTube. So I don't know why they don't still have some of that same love for the shorts or my shorts or whatever, on whatever topic it is. Like someone commented on one of my shorts, like, I miss you. And I'm just like, I stream every day. Like I say it to them. I'm just like, they were surprised I popped up in their feed, and I'm here. Just make sure that you guys are subscribed and hitting the notification bell. Sometimes YouTube does actually unsubscribe people. I don't know why they do that, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why YouTube be playing games like that. But Crockett trying to deflect to the Trump thing, it's not gonna work. And he's like as Ben Shapiro calls him, the mud monster. You can just keep throwing mud. Like he's in the White House. Like, what are you gonna do? trying to bring up some of these things anyway. You know, it didn't stop him from being president. You know, in 2016, it didn't stop him this time around. Just you can let that go at any time, but you're wrong. They're wrong when they push that. So now we are here once again trying to correct the record so people can slowly peel away from their Trump derangement syndrome. But to Miss Crockett, she absolutely I guess we'll leave a sliver of she wasn't talking about his disability, but it seems to be that way, and a repeated behavior that has been public, not private, like we're talking rumors, things that she's liked on social media, said on social media, and she should have just owned her wretchedness. Like, yeah, I said what I said, or just like leave it alone, not really address it, you know, because people she doesn't like anyway were the ones out there saying, oh, this is a terrible thing that you said. And I mean, they are going to censure her, but what does, like, it's not like they're kicking her out of Congress. Like, so and who knows if that even really moves forward. So she could have just ignored it. But if she really wanted to like double down, there's no point in lying about it. Again, just because she's stupid doesn't mean that we're all stupid. But she could have just, shifted to, I made some comments today, but, Governor Gregg Abbot has done X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. And that's what we should focus on. Like, if you don't want to apologize, just be ratchet. I don't want her to be. Like, I want her to be a better person and a sensible person. But I don't get the, just don't insult my intelligence, man. You said what you said. You did what you did. Just own that nonsense or repent. Own it or repent. Anyway, Kit Kat said she found me because of a pro-life short and has been hicked ever since. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. I know. I had got a lot of like TERFs on my page after a lot of the trans stuff, but they were like not cool with the pro-life stuff. But people weren't on the same page, but there were plenty of people who like respectfully disagreed with some of my views. Because I present them in a very, logical and respectful way. So there's people who follow who aren't lockstep. You're not gonna find somebody who you're locked up with all the time anyway. So anyway, let's move on from Miss Crockett and get to the NPR. Someone said, I don't know if you've spoken on this yet, and I've been busy preparing for birth of my next child, but what's going on with the segregation nonsense, the people reporting it are not my cup of tea. I already actually addressed this briefly in this podcast. I haven't done one like in great detail, but I guess I will just kind of reiterate it while I queue up the next thing. So Donald Trump did an executive order that repealed one of LBJ's executive orders. And the reason why he did that is because he's trying to get rid of, like, cut out DEI stuff, including things that encourage like affirmative action, because he wants everything to be like merit based. But in this executive order that I don't know what, I think I'm like fusing his name with like LGBT, but LBJ, he in it, there was like a banning of contractors enforcing like segregation. So now people are saying that, oh, Trump is like trying to bring back segregation, and force segregation is repealing things that, stop segregation. Now, everyone understands that he did not repeal the Civil Rights Act. So you can't just go out there and be racist to people and do the segregation and all that kind of different stuff. All that stuff is still in effect. But Donald Trump just wanted to get rid of things that promoted, like affirmative action and stuff. And reason being, like, if you have different quotas in mind, let's say, people did affirmative action assuming for noble reasons. You see marginalized people not getting what you deem to be a fair shot. So you have different quotas in mind for trying to help certain groups, get different positions, or you'll look at them. But the issue with that is that you're also like ignoring other folks who maybe you would have considered, but you have it in mind, these special groups, that you're overlooking other people who should be on an even playing field as far as criteria and resumes and so on. So Trump is just like merit based. That's how we're moving forward. No more DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion stuff, and we're getting rid of things that have that kind of bent. So that's what it is. It's a nonsense talking point, but it's like we're right in the wheelhouse of, what people believe about Trump that don't like him anyway. So that's what's going on. But no, he didn't bring back segregation, and you people aren't going to be segregated like that, which is interesting. It's interesting because the libs have been trying to segregate for a while. Like, there's been different news stories about there's a school, there's a Black mother who found out that they were trying to segregate her child into like a Black people's classroom. There's been woke people on college campuses that want specific Black spaces. And like, I can think of one video where they're like yelling at this like white kid to get out of their Black spaces. Disney had different groups where they name where they section off people by their race. I can't remember what they were all called, but the Black folks were like Wakanda forever. So there's a lot of people who complain about racism that are actually really into the idea. Really, and someone I was debating the other night in my comments about, which they ended up blocking me, about this subject specifically, who at one point in the conversation, let it be known for Trump, they didn't actually care about like anti-Semitism or whatever. They just wanted to remind Trump about the segregation stuff. As we were going back and forth, they're like, well, who's been hurt by affirmative action? And I'm like, okay, well, there was some white farmers who had to sue the Biden administration because they were prioritizing things for Black farmers, but they were cutting out different people in different programs, and including a white farmer who had like spina bifida. So there was a case like that. There's a case right now that's probably going to go up to the Supreme Court where a woman is alleging that she was discriminated against by her employer because she's straight. And now I don't know if that's the case. She still has yet to prove that, but lower courts were trying to rule that the standard that she had to meet, it's at a higher level than a minority group would be, and she's like in a majority group as a straight person, I guess. And so they're trying to get the ruling that no, you have to treat everyone equal, and she has a lower threshold to kind of make her case. So there's different people who do get pushed out. I mean, I mentioned Scott Adams too. Scott Adams, he's a Dilbert guy. The reason why he got into comic books is because he was in corporate America, and at the time they were really trying to push like women bosses and promote them in different things in corporate America. So his boss was kind of like, you're really good, but basically we don't have a position for you to rise up any higher. You're not going to rise up any higher in the company. So he's like, okay. So he quit that job, got another job in like corporate America, and the same thing happened. And so after that, he's like, if you learn that you basically have a ceiling and you can't go up any higher, then they kind of changed your outlook on how you work and other stuff. So he started getting involved like in just a different avenue, and then started doing Dilbert, got into comic books, and eventually got famous for something else. So he, I guess ended up being better for him in the end, but it's an interesting story because he was discriminated against, but a lot of people don't care because like, well, it's the woman's turn. Or, when it came to affirmative action with like Harvard discriminated against, Asians and like, but it's helping Black people, and actually was helping a lot of white women. But you're like, well, these marginalized groups, we need to help them. It's like, well, what about these other groups? And even if it's not another minority group, and you're just like ousting white people, and you're like, well, it's our turn, and they have had all these privileges throughout the years. People who haven't done anything to you should not be guilty for things that other people did to folks who weren't even you. Like, like you're not a victim and they're not an oppressor, but you want them to be punished, and you want like reparations, and you want to be rewarded. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you have to look at everyone equally. And also, like, the Democrat platform, I don't know if it still says this, but their last platform said that they don't want the law to treat everybody equally, because that's that's how they believe it's going to solve like racial injustice. And that's like straight out of critical race theory. They don't want a neutral policy laws. So that's why you hear them talk about equity, not equality. So again, a lot of these folks who are coming at Trump and claiming he's doing all these bad things and he's a racist, Project 2025, blah 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 blah. They don't actually oppose racism. They don't actually oppose it a lot of the times. So anyway, let us move on. I hope that answered your questions, Ty. I want to talk about this phenomenal clip from a hearing from Catherine Mayer. She's the or maybe both those pronunciations are wrong, but she's the CEO right now of NPR, and NPR does get public funds. So they are, I guess, fighting for their life to try to keep some of their funds. So this Representative Brandon Gill asked her some questions about some of her comments and tweets and things like that. And it's just amazing. And I had to share with you guys.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't. You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I have never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North. Yes, all of us. Yes, America. Yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt. Yes, reparations. Yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone
Seems
to pay
to be what you're
reparations, sir.
suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being illegal.
You tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my
You
time at
tweeted
NPR.
that you read that book.
I don't believe that I did read that.
You tweeted that you read the book. So we got some options. Was she drunk tweeting, or was she possessed by a demon at the time? You know what I think it is? I mean, it could be true, or perhaps true, that she's like sold in totally in the ideology. And I'm kind of getting Robin DiAngelo flashbacks, like from when she was on Am I Racist? And Matt Walsh. If you haven't seen Am I Racist, it's great. It was really great. The best scene, and I knew it was going to be worth the price of admission. I knew it was going to be worth the price of admission when they dropped that trailer and Matt was sitting across from Robin DiAngelo, who's the author of White Fragility. It was amazing. So Matt was able to convince I think the producer on the movie, Ben, who's a black guy, to get Robin to pay him reparations. And it was such a great scene. I'm sorry if I spoiled it for you, but it was if you haven't seen the film, but it's amazing. It'll still be worth watching. I recommend you go ahead and watch it. But Matt would run down some of their ideology and thinking and kind of outwoked her. So I don't know. I think a lot of people say stuff. I'm not saying they don't believe some of this stuff, but to the degree that they're saying it, how much is legit? Like, she's like, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. Like, well, you tweeted it. Then what you said? Well, I've evolved. And are you just saying a lot of things because you are quote unquote virtue signaling? Like the saying all the things about the reparations, like, oh, we need to pay this, we need to pay this, we need to pay this. Not me, sir. Not me, though. I've never done it. Like, and that was the beauty of Matt Walsh asking Robin to do it, because there are times when I've heard white people probably apologize for their privilege and all kinds of different stuff. And I'm like, okay, here's my Cash App. You think you should pay reparations? Oh, here's my Cash App. Like, you do it first. I think one time someone sent me $5. But if you're going to start saying that crazy stuff, like, own up to it. Live by your own ethic. Live by your own ethic. Again, I mentioned Governor Gregg Abbott. People are so mad that he made the open borders sanctuary cities folk live by their own ethic. Like, oh, they can come. Okay, well, we're going to send them to you. And guess what? It was overwhelming. It was overwhelming for them, just like it was overwhelming for the border towns. But they don't want them, and you guys want them, so you can have them. And it caused an issue, caused a problem, and it made people talk about the issue nationally. Like Abbott and some of the things that they did. I know DeSantis sent some people too, but it was really mostly Abbott. Like, that shift in the conversation about illegal immigration hugely, I think, contributed to the fact that Trump won. Because it started, changing the political climate, and how maybe folks who aren't that engaged in the politics or whatever saw how this real border issue was affecting them personally. And that's a part of why every swing state went to Trump, and why mostly every county shifted more red. Because they couldn't live up to their ethic here. And most of the people, they're not going to live up to their ethic of reparations. They're not going to pay it forward themselves. But her saying, like, oh, I don't remember that. I didn't read that. I was like, what? When you tweeted that you read the book, oh, I'm finishing the book tonight. And maybe that was a lie too. And she didn't actually read the book, and it was just virtue signaling, and wanted everyone to think that she was doing something that she wasn't actually doing, because she wanted the kudos and she wanted the points, the brownie points. There's one person who I was mutuals with. She's had probably multiple accounts, so I don't know if we're still mutuals or whatever. But she was a former Democrat. And she ended up leaving the Democrat Party, became a I don't know if she's a Republican. Maybe she's more libertarian or whatever, but she's no longer a Democrat. And I remember her explaining why she decided to switch, and she just got tired of like just having to be someone that she wasn't for the sake of a fake virtue. So she had to keep saying, for example, that she was racist. It was something that the white people had to admit, that they had to talk about. And if you weren't actively trying to fight racism, it's not enough to be against the racism. You have to fight against it. You have to be an anti-racist as a, gosh, what's his name? What's the name? The anti-racist guy. I can't think of his name. Who conned a lot of people out of money, would seem. Gosh, I can't think of his name. Let me Google it real quick. Let's see if I can Google it faster than you guys can write in the comments. Ibrahim X. Kendi. There we go. That was definitely not on the tip of my tongue, but Ibrahim X. Kendi and the whole anti-racist, jargon, which is like an outgrowth of like, Robin DiAngelo's kind of stuff and worldview, whatever. And people couldn't just say that they're not like racism is bad, but I'm not a racist. You couldn't say that if you're like a white person. You had to admit that you were racist, and you had implicit bias and all kinds of different stuff. But deep within her soul, this woman's like, I know I'm not actually racist, but I have to keep confessing it. I have to keep saying it. So I recall during 2020, that was a really annoying time for a lot of folks, but I hated the BLM, marches and the hashtags and the blocking out the squares and stuff. I hated it. I hated that time in my life so much. Just everyone was so annoying. I'm sure I annoyed a lot of people too, because I saw those hashtags and I'd be in their comments like, this is a terrible organization and what they really do, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of people felt like they had to say that they were racist and had to apologize for their white privilege. And it was disturbing to me because I for half of my school career, I went to like an urban, kind of school. And then the other half, I was in a rural area, and I went from, there being a lot of Black kids, like that was normal, to there's only a few in my graduating class. And I had a lot of, really good friends and met nice people, and I had a lovely experience graduating from my high school. I had a great time. I liked it far better than the schools I was going to before. And to see all of these people and like who I'm Facebook friends with admit that they're racist or have to apologize for their privilege and all kind of stuff, in my mind, I'm just like, y'all was racist the whole time? Like what? Well, gosh, it's nice to know. Thanks for letting me know that you were actually racist the whole entire time that I knew you. Like, you would be proud of that? You want me to clap for you because you're out here spewing that you were a racist? Like, and were you actually racist, or are you just doing it for attention? Because because both are pathetic. Both are wildly pathetic. So that's one reason why when Democrats are like, oh, Republicans are the party of racism and all this, I'm like, the Democrats were the ones going around forcing their people, or they were confessing it or whatever, that they were racist. And you may say, no, the Republicans are racist too, even if they just didn't admit it. I'm like, well, you guys admitted it, so you own that. You're absolutely the party of racism. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me read some of your comments. I saw that someone said my sister made a good point. So she said reparations made sense right after slavery from the companies that were still prosperous from the slave ownership. Generations later, who is paying for this? Tax-paying descendants of the slave. Yeah, it's just to convoluted and stuff. And I don't know how I don't know how all the legal stuff would bear out with all that stuff too. because as evil as it was legal at the time. So I don't know even know how all that stuff would bear out in the courts back then or not, if they did try to actually push for it. But yeah, generations later, and it's like there's so many people who are of mixed heritage where you will find that you were not only the descendant of the slave, but also the slave owner. And if that's the case, who pays and who gets paid? Are you doing both? Like money one hand and the other? And I've heard people say, well, that's different because there's, because they probably abuse that slave like sexually, or they, power dynamics, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, okay, but why are you just choosing to see the black in you as the victim, and you're not acknowledging the oppressor whiteness in you? So why do you get to just make that decision? So it's just, and then there's all these people who immigrated in who had nothing to do with it. Rob Schneider did a joke about California paying for reparations, and they're just like, so they're going to make people who never owned slaves pay money to people who never were slaves in a state that never had slavery. So he said that's like paying for child support for a child that's not yours with a woman you've never slept with. So yeah, it's just really it's just a hot mess as far as how that would go. I did write an article about like if Democrats really want to push reparations, what they should do is they shouldn't do it by bloodlines or whatever. That's not fair. All these people born after the fact that don't have anything to do with it, didn't suffer anything. People just trying to appropriate off of the pain of their ancestors. Like that doesn't make any sense. But if you really want to pay some money to some black folks, as far as who has to pay, it should be people who are associated with the party that was associated with racism and slavery, and that would be the Democrats. So the Democrat Party has to pay. The people who are associated with the Democrat Party has to pay. And fortunately, you would pay black Republicans, obviously, and they're so few in number, it's probably doable. We're a very small number, because if you just wanted to pay every like black person who has some kind of background of slavery, that's gonna be very expensive for the nation there. But I think with how much money Kamala Harris raised very quickly for her election, I think it's very possible that the Democrats could come up with the money, cough it up to pay black Republicans like myself. So if they really want to do reparations, I think that is the easiest way to do it. I think that is the fairest way to do it. If you wanted to associate and knowingly be a member of the party that tried to push for slavery and keep slavery and stuff, that is on you. You could have been independent. You could have been a Republican. But you chose the Democrat Party. And by the way, the Democrats, you could say they switched. They didn't, but they could have disbanded. Like, oh, this slavery thing's real bad, let's disband to start again. Like, no, just 100 years ago they were running ballots that said party of white supremacy, so if black Democrats and white Democrats, all the Democrats really want reparations, I can give them my Venmo. I can give them my Venmo for sure. Another thing that was talked about with the CEO from NPR is that NPR is like 80. It's 100% of the editorial board. 87 members are registered Democrats. So let me go ahead and play that snippet.
You're a rabid progressive. Like, and do you not think it's a problem that your political leanings make it seem to the American people that you're not biased and you're not doing your job, because you agree that your job is to have journalistic integrity, right?
Absolutely, but there is a strong firewall between the newsroom and anything that I
Let's
do.
talk about the newsroom. You have 87 registered Democrats, not a single Republican in your editor board. So, I mean, how does that work to give us the perception that you're doing your job of actually delivering unbiased information?
Well, I would agree with you that that number is a concern if it is accurate. I do believe that we need to have journalists who represent the full breadth of the American society so that we can report well for all Americans.
Well, I think that you are failing. I realize you've only been there for a year, but I just really think that while it is a small portion of your budget, you very much should expect to restructure your revenue streams, because I don't think that NPR is necessarily worth saving. You're a rabid progressive.
Yeah, people have been making the case for a while that we should defund NPR, and NPR's had some wild headlines and stories throughout the years. They did ask her about the Hunter Biden laptop, and apparently she said they didn't really cover it well, but like they refused to cover it, and they were asked like, why aren't you covering it? And they're like, because it's like a non-story. Like they just try to dismiss it when obviously it was a very true thing that was going on, that was very important, but it damaged Joe Biden, so they wanted to just sweep it under the rug. So I don't know what's gonna happen there with NPR, but I prefer not to pay for them for sure. One time I did I was interviewed by NPR. I never even looked up that to see if they used my stuff or anything. It was during the 2020 election, and one of their people came to our church before church to interview me about it was about Trump. It was election stuff, and it wasn't, I just asked them to meet me at the church or whatever, and they had like a mask on and whatever, and then she had mentioned that they were at the debate, I think the other night before, and I just remember thinking like, just different places she had been and different stuff. I'm like, aren't you guys flipping out about COVID and you guys are just traveling? And there wasn't, I think someone else was just infected, and I'm like, and here you are here talking to me. But I don't I can't remember if it was I think they asked me like what was important to me, because I do think I talked about like abortion and other stuff, but I don't think I was specifically talking about some kind of measure or whatever, but like maybe it was like a general conversation, but it was an interesting thing that happened. But yeah, I never even looked up to see if they represented me fair or whatever. I was just kind of like, well, I did it, and just kind of let it go. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. The story about the that we covered yesterday about the Signal chat with Hegseth and Walls and stuff, it continues to heat up. I kind of think that they should take the L, and there was more information, whatever that was released. Atlantic released like a screenshot of Goldberg being asked if he wanted to join the chat by Walls. So they're just gonna like, how did he get invited? How did he get on the chat? And it's like, well, he was invited. So they made a big error. They should try to squash this story and not like, really fight on it. Just like take some accountability and let it kind of be. But I don't know if there's anything else really interesting that breaks from it. I guess we will probably mention it tomorrow, but I'm gonna let it go for now. We're gonna call it a day. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost a stream, run my site, all that good stuff. So you guys can't support, I very much do appreciate it, and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For t-shirt. That is pretty darn cool. And I have different books that I have that you guys can check out. One of my nonfiction books is Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear, which I did write during COVID. It's not specifically about COVID, but people were acting crazy. So I'm like, oh, I'm inspired. I'm inspired to write this book. And another book that I have that's nonfiction is, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. And then I had other books. It's still March. March is reading month. So if you want to get something for yourself or something for the kiddos or your nephews and nieces and grandkids or whoever, you guys can check out this chapter book, Super Kid and Super Kid 2. And I got a lot of stuff, but if you go to blacktnews.com, there's a link on the merchandise page at the top that'll take you to my book website, but there's a link in the description that'll take you to an Amazon page, so you guys can go ahead and I guess go right to the different books. I have them on paperback, an ebook, and most of my books are on Kindle Unlimited, not my nonfiction, but all my fiction books are on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that subscription, as long as you click through those pages, I will get paid. So go ahead and do that. Thank you to all of you who watched live, to all of you who are watching back later. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.